We like to think a lot of our buildings are typified by the materials that we use, the groupings of them or select details. That creates its identity, and it was no different for this home. We draw on a lot of older European buildings for inspiration for our designs, and what we wanted to do in this property is we didn't want it to be a cliche of materials or ideas, but we did want to sort of create a sentiment of an older Italian home. One of the interesting things about this property is that it doesn't give itself away all at once. And it's not until you enter that you get a sense of this large forecourt area like you'd see in an older European, large pensione, for example, and it's then that you fully get the scale of the building. It's certainly as much about how you enter the building as how you move through it. There has been consideration for how the different spaces feel. So when you enter in the front, it is compressed, so you're not quite getting a glimpse of all the materials yet. You then get into these larger volumes, or you step down to these larger rooms and you get bigger expanses of more natural materials and their texture and their colour. We've got Italian Travertine floors, but we've done a rough sawn finish to them that we've ground on site to soften it a touch. And they're a smaller format, like you'd see in a farmhouse, so there is a relaxed, unassuming quality about it all. We've used a Tuscan oak timber panelling for all the joinery, and it's just having that one material. It gives a calm and evenness to the feeling inside, but we're not afraid to amp it up in certain rooms, so you just get these big moments of intensity that just sort of lift the spaces and elevate them. You need movement around a stair, but we've embraced that in an overall larger volume. It's the tallest ceiling height that we've got in the house. It's about 7.5 metres, almost 8 metres, I think, and it's just putting priority on a space while maximising the efficiency of how you use it. There comes a stage in the project where your mind shifts from the architectural rigour and you start to look more to the internal spaces and the end result, how you're actually going to inhabit them, live in them. And that's where being able to piece together certain furnishings and working through, say, Cultiver's portfolio of colours and fabrics and weaves that they have, that was a consideration that started to get momentum as the project was starting to come to completion, and sort of adapt that same mindset that we had to the palette of materials we used in the architecture. How can we layer up the furnishings in the house so they work together and create a greater whole? With the furniture in this home, when we buy items, it is for a long-term investment, and it has been built up over many years. We've got sideboards and mid-century furniture that tends to sit well in these rooms that celebrate the primary finish, like the brickwork and the travertine. But we're not afraid to pair that with new items like the sofa or armchairs, but we've upholstered those in a vintage textured Missoni stripe. So it's a little nod to Italy, which is nice, but it's a bit more playful as well. In the mix of that, we also have more functional pieces that we've designed ourselves at B.E Architecture. So we've got our coffee table that's upholstered and it's firm enough to put a glass of wine on, but soft enough to put your feet up on, or the Perspex display cubes where you can sort of curate books and objects. So it's a nice way to display items, and it just breaks up the space a little bit as well. In this room is the large, certainly oversized bird ring light that we've made with hard plaster, and it certainly doesn't tend to relate to anything in the room, but that's what gives it its point of difference and a bit of playfulness and identity. One of the key things in designing this home was being able to find the right balance of materials, the right amount of detail that had an architectural rigour to it. We also had the benefit though of being able to look at our own Italian heritage and maybe zero in on that side of things a little bit closer and create a response that was a little bit more personal for ourselves.